Cale had always been there. Not just as my brother Mark's best friend, he was a fixed point in my universe, a constant. I was 14 when I truly understood it. I was getting shoved into the lockers by some juniors, and out of nowhere, Cale was there. He wasn't even in our school anymore, just visiting Mark. He didn't say a word, just fixed them with a look that could freeze hell, and they scattered. He looked at me, his intense dark eyes softening for a fraction of a second. "You okay, Gabriel?" That was Cale. Reliable, serious, and sometimes too intense. Everyone, especially Mark, said he was just protective. A loyal big brother in all but blood. For years I clung to that, but lately that protectiveness had started to feel less like a shield and more like a cage. The bars were his constant questions, his disapproving glances, his silent presence that loomed over every friendship, every plan I made. It started the night of my first real date. His name was Sam, sweet, shy, completely harmless. I'd spent an hour picking out my shirt, my heart doing a nervous tap dance. But when I walked into the living room, Cale was there, his eyes scanning me from head to toe. He froze. "Where are you going?" His voice was low, a warning rumble. "Out," I said, trying to sound casual, but my voice betrayed me with a slight tremor. "With who?" When I said Sam, his expression darkened, the air in the room growing thick and heavy. He moved to the doorway, a solid, unmovable wall of muscle and quiet fury. He didn't let me pass until Sam's beat-up sedan pulled up. And when Sam rang the bell, Cale was the one who opened the door. No smile, no handshake, just a glare so sharp and cold it could have cut glass. Sam physically flinched. "Have him back by 10, Cale said, his voice devoid of all warmth. "And if you hurt him, you'll answer to me." The date was a disaster. Sam was a nervous wreck, jumping at every shadow, his eyes constantly darting around the movie theater. "Your brother's friend," he stammered during a quiet moment. He looked like he wanted to, I don't know. It was intense. I spent the whole night trying to reassure him, but the damage was done. Cale's shadow had stretched across the entire city. When I got home, precisely at 10, Cale was in the kitchen, calmly steeping a cup of chamomile tea as if he hadn't just single-handedly torpedoed my evening. I snapped. All the frustration of the night, of months, came boiling over. "Why do you always ruin everything for me? Are you jealous? Possessive or something?" He looked up from the steam rising from the cup, his expression unreadable, a mask of calm over a raging sea I could only sense. "Yes." The simple, stark admission stole the air from my lungs. Then softly he pushed the mug toward me. "Now drink your tea. It'll help you sleep." After that night, the mask was off. Everything changed. Cale stopped pretending it was casual concern. It was a campaign. Since he'd graduated and was working nearby, he started using it as an excuse to show up in his car to pick me up after my lectures. Always already waiting, engine off, his intense gaze fixed on the building's exit. He'd be waiting at the library, saving me a seat with a single, pointed look that dared anyone else to approach. My phone buzzed constantly. "Where are you?" Another text would follow. "I saw you talking to that guy from your econ class." And another, "You should be focusing on your midterm." It wasn't about protection anymore. It was control, pure and simple. The cage now had a lock and he held the key. Then one night, when Mark was out of town, I tried to reclaim a shred of my freedom. I was going to meet Sam again, just for coffee, to apologize for the last time. I had my hand on the doorknob when a voice cut through the dark. "You're not going." I spun around. Cale stood at the entrance to the hall, silhouetted by the faint light from the kitchen. "You're not my dad." I shot back, my voice shaking with a mixture of fear and defiance. "I know." His voice cracked on the words, raw and stripped bare. In 2 strides, he was across the room. He didn't shove me, but he slammed the door shut with such force the frame rattled. Then he caged me against it, his hands flat on the wood on either side of my head. Not rough, but desperate. His body was trembling. "I can't take this anymore," he confessed, his breath hot against my forehead. Every time someone looks at you, every time you smile at someone else, it feels like I'm losing my mind. I keep telling myself it's for Mark, that I'm protecting you for him, but I'm lying. I'm lying to him, and I'm lying to myself. He leaned closer, his forehead nearly touching mine. His eyes squeezed shut as if in pain. It's not loyalty. It's not duty. It's love. I've been in love with you for years, Gabriel, and I can't stand the thought of anyone else touching you. I can't. The air between us felt electric, alive. Before I could process his words, before I could even breathe, he kissed me. It wasn't gentle or questioning. It was fierce, unfiltered, a desperate confession of its own, full of every single thing he'd been hiding for years. And I, the one who had fought against his control, his cage, I didn't push him away. My hands, which had been balled into fists at my sides, unclenched, and I kissed him back. When we broke apart, the silence was deafening, broken only by our ragged breaths. Cale's chest was heaving. He stumbled back, his hands trembling as he ran them through his hair, looking at me like he'd committed an unforgivable crime. "I'm sorry," he whispered, his voice hoarse. "I'm so sorry, Gabriel. I shouldn't have." "Don't." I cut him off, my own voice surprisingly steady. "Don't you dare say you didn't mean it. You just told me you love me. After all of this, don't you hide from me now." He swallowed hard, his Adam's apple bobbing. He looked utterly wrecked. "I meant every word. But I shouldn't have kissed you like that. It was wrong. Mark trusts me. I stared at him, my mind a whirlwind of anger, confusion, and something else, something terrifyingly close to longing. That wasn't protection, Cale. That was a claim. We stood there in the dim hallway, the truth he'd unleashed burning like a wildfire between us, consuming all the old, safe lies. "I don't know what this is," I admitted quietly, hugging my arms around myself. "I don't know what it means." But I didn't hate it. The change in his face was immediate. The tension shattered. He smiled. A soft, vulnerable, almost human smile that reached his eyes for the first time all night. The next day was a special kind of torture. Mark was home, loud and cheerful and completely oblivious, regaling us with stories from his trip over a stack of pancakes. Cale sat directly across from me, the perfect picture of nonchalance, nodding along with Mark. But his eyes, his intense, dark eyes, wouldn't stop finding mine. They'd flick up from his plate, holding my gaze for a heartbeat too long. A silent, secret conversation. Then, under the table, his knee brushed against mine. A deliberate, warm pressure. A silent reminder of the shattered door, the confession, the kiss. A reminder of everything that was now between us. Mark didn't notice a thing, but I did. I felt it in my bones. That night, after the house had fallen quiet, a soft knock echoed from my door. My heart leapt into my throat. "Come in." Cale slipped inside, closing the door behind him with a quiet click. He looked nervous, almost shy, a stark contrast to the commanding figure from the night before. "I meant everything I said," he told me, his voice low and earnest. "But the way I've been acting, it's wrong. I see that now. I'll stop. I'll stop trying to control you. I will learn to let go." He took a shaky breath. "I want you to choose me, Gabriel. Not because I scared everyone else away, but because you actually want me." I stepped closer, close enough to see the flecks of gold in his dark eyes. "And if you ever try to cage me again, then I'll lose you," he said without a moment's hesitation. His voice soft but absolute. "And that is a risk I will never, ever take again." He raised his hand, cupping my cheek. His touch was gentle now, reverent, even. It was the complete opposite of the man who had once tried to own me. "Then prove it," I whispered, the challenge hanging in the air between us. Cale's breath hitched at my challenge. "Prove it." For a long moment, he just looked at me, his gaze searching my face. The intensity in his eyes had shifted. The desperate fire was now a steady, hopeful glow. His hand moved from my cheek to gently cradle the back of my neck, his thumb stroking my skin in a slow, soothing rhythm. "Okay," he whispered. The word was a vow, a quiet promise sealed in the stillness of my room. Then, he did the one thing I never expected. He took a small, deliberate step back. He created a space between us, a physical representation of the freedom he was offering. Felt terrifying, but it also felt right. Felt like trust. "Tomorrow," he said, his voice clear and sure, no trace of its earlier tremor. 7 o'clock. "I am taking you on a real date." I was stunned. "A date? A real one?" he confirmed. A soft, genuine smile finally touching his lips, transforming his entire face. "Nosrets. Just you and me." He paused, and the smile turned a little wry. "I'll pick you up, and I'll have you home by 10. He was quoting his own harsh words back to me, but this time they weren't a command. They were a promise of change. Felt like a new beginning. The next 24 hours were agony. The texts came, but they were different. He texted, "Looking forward to tonight." A little later, another one came, "Wear whatever you want." When he arrived, he was holding a single, perfect sunflower. He looked handsome and so endearingly nervous. He'd even told Mark he was taking me out for dinner. Mark had just clapped him on the shoulder and said, "Awesome. Don't be weird, man." Completely unaware of the earthquake his words caused in my soul. The date was simple and perfect. We talked, not about who I'd been with or where I'd been, but about my life. My dreams of being a photographer, my favorite books, the places I wanted to see. He listened, his full attention on me, his hands resting on the table, never reaching for mine unless I reached first. It was the most powerful proof he could have given. He was proving he wanted my heart, not just my obedience. When he walked me to my door that night, the world was quiet, bathed in the soft glow of the porch light. "I had a really good time tonight, Cale," I said softly, my voice barely above a whisper. "Gabriel," he breathed, my name sounding like a sacred prayer on his lips. He didn't move. "This, letting you stand there, knowing I could reach for you, but choosing to wait for you to come to me. It's the hardest and most important thing I've ever done." My heart swelled, filling my chest until I thought it might burst. This was it. The cage was gone. Not just unlocked, but dismantled, piece by piece. The door was wide open, and he was waiting on the other side, hoping I'd choose to walk through to him. I closed the distance between us. I took his hands in mine, lacing our fingers together. I saw the shock in his eyes, followed by a wave of pure, unadulterated relief that made him look younger, lighter. "You don't have to wait anymore," I breathed. I stood on my toes and I kissed him. This kiss was nothing like the first. That one was a storm, all thunder and lightning and desperate need. This one was a sunrise. It was slow and deep and warm, full of a future we were choosing together, second by second. His arms wrapped around me, holding me close, so carefully. But I knew, with a certainty that settled deep in my soul, that I was the one holding him, too. We were no longer just my brother and his best friend. We were Cale and Gabriel. And this tender, chosen beginning was everything.